our next guest wrestles with the WWE, and he is from the area, and we were surprised to find out that he grew up listening to our show. And we're stoked to welcome Mr. Drew Gulak to the program.
Hi, guys.
How you doing, Drew?
I'm wonderful. This is really surreal. I did grow up listening to the show. I listened back when it was Preston, Maryland. And
Wow. All the way back.
Man.
Y100, yeah. I joined, it was Preston and Maryland, then Preston, Maryland, and Steve.
right.
Then
For just like a few weeks, and then Preston, Maryland, Steve, and then Maryland went on her own. She'd bailed from the show, which we're still buddies with her to this day, and then it became the Preston and Steve show.
Well, there's a step in between where it was the McNeil-Lair report, right between that and when Maryland left, and then we became our show.
Yeah.
We don't know why we did that. It was very stupid.
So it's pretty wild. The way we found out about you is you had commented on a post I had on Instagram, and I saw the little blue check by your name, and I'm like, what's this all about? And then we find out a little bit more that you grew up in the area. I was just so blown away to see you comment on my edible cheese board that I made.
It was a beautiful edible cheese board, and I saw there might be another one.
I made one last night, and I brought it in.
I'm so sorry.
We're going to sample
it. I'm so sorry you made
I need it. I'm working on it.
You picked a good one to dive in on, though, because we had the conversation, and we do the thing called the connoisseur, and Preston brought up this thing, and everybody's going, man, that sounds awesome. And then he posted the picture, like almost that night he took a crack at it, and everyone's going, man, that's awesome. So you dove in at the right point. If you're ever going to make a comment, the baked charcuterie board was the time to do it.
That's the ticket in.
That was it.
And this is only the second one I've made, so I do need to work on it a bit, so I don't feel bad at all that I had to make another one.
No, I'm already impressed.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Beautiful.
So where did you grow up in the area?
So to the age of 10, I lived in Montgomeryville.
Okay.
And then I moved to Fox Chase in Northeast Philly. And then was there through high school, went to Drexel for 2 years.
Was it Northeast High that you went to?
Yeah, Northeast High School.
Right.
Most
where were you
popular high school in the city.
Where were you studying at
That's
Drexel?
164. At Drexel, I actually went to be an architectural engineer.
Okay, yeah, that's the school to go to.
That lasted 1 quarter because I did quarters there.
Yeah, dude.
Was it just too hard? Or?
It's hard.
It wasn't so much that it was hard. I just wasn't interested in like all the math.
Okay.
Do you know what the great part of architecture is? Building the little tiny replicas of what you're going to build. To me, that was it. That was always so cool.
I'd still be doing it.
Yeah.
Drew, when my very brief college moment, I took astronomy. I'm like, I've always loved the stars.
Yeah.
This would be really cool. It'll be really interesting. My God, was it hard.
It's physics.
It was all physics and math, and I'm like, this is not what I signed up for, man.
Yeah, that's
so
what it was
I had to bail
like.
on that. No
that's exactly what it was like. I switched into film for a little bit, and just decided I wanted to focus on wrestling, which is I've been doing that since high school.
So were you football or anything in school?
Wrestling team.
Just a wrestling team.
Just the wrestling team.
So you do have a classical wrestling.
Yeah, an amateur wrestling background.
How did you do in high school? How were you?
I did okay. So city kids have it tougher. Like if you grew up in the suburbs, you're probably doing wrestling from a very young age, and you're doing it a lot.
Yep.
And for me, it was like I met my biology teacher. He happened to be the wrestling coach. And he was like, hey, come try out for the team. And like I made the team, and the practices were grueling and stuff. And I did pretty well. I think I made varsity senior year. It was captain senior year. Varsity maybe sophomore year. Junior year. Yeah. So I did okay. But it wasn't like my one focus, too.
Right.
Like while I was doing that second year of amateur wrestling, I started training professional wrestling, which was, I don't know, thinking back, I love talking about it because I would go from high school, and then I would go to high school wrestling practice, and then I would get in a car, drive 45 minutes to Deptford at the time, and do professional wrestling practice till like 10:30 at night.
Wow.
Then I get home and I got to wake up the next morning. I remember
that's commitment.
Man, yeah, it was grueling then, but like I loved pro wrestling so much, and like, nothing was going to stop me.
So going from the amateur to pro, obviously, you got to work on the moves. You got to know what you're doing. You have to be proficient in the ring. But you also have to, is a part of that, being physically large. I mean, making sure that the muscles are big and impressive, because that's part of it. Looking at those guys, looking at you guys, you have to go, wow, man.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other thing outside of just the technique of wrestling. It's also, you got to look really good, too.
It's true. It's true. And like when I started, I didn't even think about physique. I didn't think about strength training. I had a wonderful strength training teacher in high school, so thankfully I had that. I had the amateur background, so I was in shape. I wasn't huge.
Right.
You know, I was maybe 180 pounds when I started.
We've talked about this, even in general, and wrestling goes through. You know, the WWE and you had been with Combat Zone as well. But right now we're in a. I think you have the best athletes who are doing it, but they're not necessarily Andre the Giant size.
Yes,
it's
right.
not that. So what you'll get is you're getting like uber stuntman level stuff going on from guys who are really, I think, more athletic than they've been in a while. Would you agree with that?
So I'll agree hands down. Like we have the best athletes ever in the history of professional wrestling right now in WWE. However, we have a guy named Amos right now who's 7'4".
Well, you don't want to piss him off.
No.
Right. But I'd say he's an even more impressive athlete than Andre was. As fantastic of an athlete as Andre was, and the way he would move around the ring. I'd say Amos, even though he's newer, he's got more potential athletically for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're always going to have the showstoppers, right? You got your Andre the Giants, your King Kong Bundys, your Hulk Hogan's, Big John Studd, the big dudes that are the showstoppers, The Rock,
Undertaker.
Sure. But you also, I mean, you have your, like, would you say pound for pound best wrestler of all time? Somebody like Shawn Michaels or...
You can absolutely argue that.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And listen, Shawn Michaels is not, he's not a twig.
Showstopper.
But he is also, like... He's just got such amazing athleticism that, and that's what people go to see.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, listen, we've talked about this many times, and it is not false praise to say that the people that we have who come in are the wrestlers are the best entertainers, the best with the audience. That's why they can port so easily a la Dwayne Johnson into movies. Yeah. You know how to do it. So, a film career in your future could be possible. Yeah. And so with that, I mean, I don't think there's any kind of training for being in the public eye and for doing that sort of work that's any better than the WWE and this world you're in right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I agree completely. Like, just the experiences I had, even on my journey to get to WWE and traveling around the world and learning how to make a career as an independent wrestler.
Right.
Very similar to like an independent musician has to find their bookings that they work, that they enjoy working.
Sure,
and,
yeah.
can make them a profit or get them noticed and like merchandising and stuff like that. And then just meeting connections and growing. That experience alone, like I feel like I can do anything. I can take on whatever I need to.
When did you learn that portion of it? Because you go to high school and you're a good wrestler, right? And that's athletics. But that, did you go to drama club? Did you learn how to write a script? Because there are these storylines that, as just a guy who's competing in wrestling, that you're not worried about that. But then you get into the entertainment side of things, and it really changes the dynamic. So how did you and when did you learn that part of the business?
So I would say that the high school wrestling, if anything, it didn't really push me into the pro wrestling career. If anything, gave me a good foundation athletically to kind of not get hurt in training.
Right.
The performance side of everything and the creative side of everything, that kind of grew organically for me just over time, gradually, because I was independent. I didn't have somebody strictly coaching me on just, you need to do this here, you got to do this, at certain times. I had to kind of experiment and find that out on my own. Now, I did work for certain places that had very scripted out storylines and stuff like that.
Right.
And that's another thing I had in my wheelhouse, just based on that experience alone. It wasn't one strict thing. I'd say it took me about 6 years to start to get comfortable and learn all of that and how to put it all together, just for me. That was my story. But just a very gradual experience learning the performance side of it.
What was mom and dad's reaction when
From architect.
From architect?
What do
to
you mean?
engineer? Yeah, right.
Oh, we had hoped you would put that architecture stuff aside.
That was not the conversation that we had.
There's no work in architecture.
No, it was interesting. Like my family, they knew that I was super passionate about it, but they didn't really get professional wrestling. They didn't understand it. So to do it on an independent level, that's real scary as a parent, seeing your kid just go and just mess around at these shows. You don't even know what's happening there. He could get hurt. He's not making money. I'm making maybe $50 to $200 at most. That's a really good payday on an independent level, for real. That's pretty scary as a parent.
Do you know what's funny, though? If you were to go, and I wonder if you go to your parents and say, I would like to become a Hollywood stuntman, or a wrestler, because essentially in this, what they call sports entertainment, there's just a nuanced difference between them, but still just somehow we think, But that has look. They look at your success.
Did you see the movie The Wrestler?
We talk about it all the time. It's amazing.
So, well, I was very lucky to be there when they were filming it at the arena in South Philly. My poster's in the movie.
That's
So
awesome.
little tidbit. But one of the things I thought was so cool about when Aronofsky created that story is that he did it kind of in conjunction with Black Swan.
Yeah.
And he considered, originally they were the same movie, and then he turned the ballerina into a stripper, and that's where Marissa Tomei's character came from. So he made Black Swan separately. But when they designed that story, it was the merging of like what people consider a low-class art form and what people consider a high-class art form between wrestling and ballet.
That's wild.
And showing the obsession that performers can go through trying to reach heights in the same thing. Yeah.
But it's such
very cool.
It's such, and also I'll say this: in the evolution, you guys are always like whip smart. You know, there was this perception for the longest time. You know, these things.
Yeah.
But to conduct these things and to do this at the level you do it, you know, is very intense. And talking about getting your thing. What is your gimmick? What is your, you know, because you've got to have that immediate high concept thing that the audience can go, okay, he's this guy, he's the heel, he's the you know, he's the bad guy or the good guy, or we don't know.
Bad guy, guys.
So let me ask you, given your druthers, what appeals to you more? The heel or the hero, or
being a good guy or a bad guy?
Yeah.
I like both. I'm rare. Like that. I actually. Most people would say that like, I like being a heel because that's easier. It's easier to get people pissed off at you instead of you know, people to cheer for you authentically.
But I always
enjoy
love
both.
I always love the transition out of the bad guy who's suddenly like, wait a second, he might be good, because the audience tends to like. We understand this guy now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They know.
So many of them
follow.
we're bad and then become good.
I think historically, too, those are the most successful kind of characters that take off. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin's a perfect example, where he came in when he started doing the Stone Cold character. Like, he was just badass, no nonsense, but he was beating up people that people really cared about. And you know, that was not enjoyed for a lot of fans. And then they started realizing he doesn't take crap from anybody. Yeah. And then it was a natural, organic turn. And then he became the biggest star in wrestling at the time.
Hey, do you as a wrestler get a say in your storyline? Can you suggest things at least?
So the most surprising thing that I've learned about working with WWE is how collaborative everything is.
Really? Okay. That's awesome.
Fans are usually surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
And I know like a lot of wrestlers who are trying to make it there are very surprised to hear that a lot of the time.
Okay.
Drew, you get to perform in front of fans again soon in person. That it's been a year and a half.
Yeah,
right?
man.
And
we got
so
fans coming back.
And when and where is that going to happen?
So I believe it's the second week in July. We're doing a tour in Dallas. It's going to be SmackDown in Houston, and I believe Money in the Bank is that weekend in Fort Worth, and then Raw, which is the show that I'm currently a part of, will be in Dallas. And then from there, we just kind of go.
That's cool.
You know what was the proof that what you guys do is effective is that, bereft of an audience when you were conducting it, it sort of looked like a wild stage play, like Arthur Miller meets wrestling, and yet the fan base stayed, for the most part, locked in.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, so if you didn't have the ability to riff and to, you know, it was just such a weird thing. The audio from a lot of those matches is some of the funniest stuff, because, you know, you always hear the crowd and the murmur and the whole thing and all that punctuating. Yeah. And suddenly it became, you know, like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? You know, and it's this weird thing, but you guys were able to do it. You know,
that was an amazing experience. Not in a good way, but just not in the best way. It was just unique and amazing to be a part of that. Like Vince McMahon is very dedicated, extremely dedicated, and like there was no way he was going to stop the show. He had to keep the show going. We did it.
Do you think anything's going to stay? Is there anything that you guys gleaned from that will stay with the, you know, post-COVID world of wrestling?
I think technologically we advanced a lot of things. Building the Thunderdome, which is what they called the live stage that they built. Testing things with like augmented reality for people's entrances and just that kind of stuff all got laser focused on, because you know, we were in a sterile environment at first. So you'll see a lot of that carry on to the live events in new ways that you probably haven't seen yet, for sure.
I'm going through your Instagram, which is just it's definitely a fun scroll here.
Yeah,
but
thanks, man.
You know, there's a picture of you and the Nature Boy. I mean, that is, for a fan, like you're a fan before you were an employee, right? Like, so, and it just says always an honor. So when I read that, I go, oh, so you've met and hung out with Ric Flair more than one time. Like, that's got to be so cool.
It's awesome. He comes by all the time, even if he's not, featured on the show. His daughter, extremely successful wrestler, Charlotte Flair, very talented. So he'll come by and watch her perform, or he'll just come and support the other wrestlers. And
wow.
Well,
Rick's awesome.
I got an email from a guy. I wasn't going to say anything I didn't know you had a connection with Ric Flair. I got an email from a guy who was desperately trying to get Ric Flair to be the best man at his wedding.
Oh, okay.
And he wanted me to ask you about it. And I'm like, I don't know, man.
He's got a wedding reception website.
No way.
I wouldn't doubt it.
He's also a moil.
Yeah, need a Preston.
He'll be a
But honestly,
Ric Flair was my moil.
how much is that guy willing to pay, and how much is what's the number for Ric Flair to do that?
Right there.
Probably.
I got to imagine a
I don't know.
couple 100,000.
I've mentioned this before, but I grew up just as a kid detesting, hating, I thought he was the most vile human being, Ric Flair. I hated him. He was so mean to everybody. He was such a show-off. And it wasn't until I was a full-grown adult, well into my 40s, that I was on YouTube, and I pulled up a video of, Ric Flair's greatest rants. And I didn't know how much entertainment that guy had given me as a kid, and I just fell in love with him.
Yeah.
Because I literally, I was scared of the guy when I was a kid.
That's how I felt about Sergeant Slaughter. I was legit. Wow. I was oh my, because I saw him whipping some guy, and I was like, dude, he's beating. He's beating that guy with a whip. That's right. What if he comes to my house?
It's so great though that becomes that's the stuff you carry with you through your life.
He stole Harley Race's cowboy hat and crumpled it up, and I'm like, you don't do that, And I was just, but I didn't realize it until later that it was actually a really, those memories are so fun to think about. And it was something special, man. And you're creating those memories for some people.
Yeah, it's surreal. That's it's really cool.
All right.
Don't take it for granted.
So Ric Flair is undoubtedly a legend, and everything the credit is credit due, right? But I was texting with a friend yesterday, and I am so exhausted by the Ric Flair woo at Phillies games and Flyers games. It personally drives me nuts. Have you heard it, and do you have an opinion on that? Have you ever heard fans? They do the woo.
So of course, I will be in a crowd randomly outside, and people will say woo.
Right.
And it's just knowing where it comes from. It's really cool. I take pride in being a part of that community. The yes chants. Have you heard those?
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
Exactly. Someone who I was very close. I'm very close with. That kind of stuff is awesome.
But it turned to no for a while too, or something, right? That confused me. Or he was saying no, or.
Well, you're a good guy. Yeah.
He's a good works, man. He's been by here a bunch of times. I like him a lot.
He's great.
I never get tired of the woos. I'm okay with them all the time. My neighbor across the street from me, whenever he comes outside, if we're outside, he goes, woo!
Seriously?
And he's older, too.
Well, what reaction do you give him when you go
I give him a woo back.
So he's going to do it every time.
And then I do it to him. So now when I see him, I go, woo! And
That's
he
your
goes,
thing.
woo.
He thinks you're best friends.
It's like Screaming Slayer, right?
That's right. Here is a storyline I'd love to see for you guys.
Okay.
By the way, if you're just tuning in, it's Drew Gulak. I just want to reset from WWE.
Thanks.
Here. Yep.
And I think this opens up a new, perhaps a new audience. What about the Paul brothers? Maybe we call those guys out because they love the boxing and the MMA and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And let's see them get in the ring with you.
Jake Paul and Logan Paul.
Yeah,
we had Logan Paul at WrestleMania this year.
He actually, and the reaction was pretty good. From what and you can, dismiss this as BS if it's not the case, but they talked to some of the wrestlers and they said they gave them props.
Yeah, I'd like to see a tag team match.
I mean, I think there's potential in your storyline idea. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I will say that celebrities coming in, it's always it's a good way to cross over and bring new audiences. We had Bad Bunny this year.
Oh my God,
he's one of the biggest artists.
Well, what about Dua Lipa? I think maybe if you bring her in.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you can, you want to make it happen. We can.
Oh, he's got a lot of ideas.
Some phone numbers.
Like a plot line that mimics Steel Magnolias would be really good.
Right. Exactly.
That was not my idea. No.
That's terrible.
Now, I also read your younger brother had wrestled as well.
Yeah. So we did it together. We trained together, and
He didn't make the cut though, or did he not want to try for
no.
the big show?
He was, I guess he didn't really get to the WWE level, but in the independent career, a very successful independent wrestling career.
What do you think, like the big leagues in any major sports? So to become the amount of people that play football and the amount of people that make it to the NFL is minuscule. It's microscopic. What about wrestling? Because there are so many independent wrestling groups out there.
So I would say, from training, from people who start training, I'd say it's about 1 in 10 who continue on just to wrestle in general. And then on the independents, now there's more jobs than ever in wrestling with, AEW starting up on TNT, WWE just expanding.
Yeah.
And then some other promotions, being able to actually, offer decent wages for people now. So it's better now than it's ever been, but I'd still say it's about 1 in maybe, I don't know, 100 to try to go on to really maybe even 1,000 depending on how many people there are. Yeah, it's a pretty small amount.
Do you remember your first match in the big league?
Oh, in WWE. Yeah. I was a part of the Cruiserweight Classic when they came in. It's all timing. Like if anyone's listening out there as an independent wrestler, it's all timing. Just keep working.
Yeah.
So for me, I had a tryout with them in 2015. I did not get hired from the tryout. They could only take one person from my group out of 72 people.
Wow.
There was maybe 5 or 6 wrestlers who were experienced there. The rest were all pro athletes. They could only hire one of us. So the rest of us were all told, maybe something in the future, guys. You did great, thanks. So I was just like, okay, just be patient. And then a year later, they started this thing called the Cruiserweight Classic, which they wanted to honor the athleticism and the history of smaller wrestlers, being more competitive. And they created this tournament, and they needed, as William Regal told me, they needed groundsmen, and I was a prominent groundsman.
Right.
So they brought me in for that. I did pretty well, made it to the second round, had a good showing. Then they took that show and they took our division and made it a featured attraction on Monday Night Raw.
Okay.
So before I was ever offered a WWE contract, I was wrestling on Monday Night Raw and their local, their pay-per-views, their monthly pay-per-views. And so I would go from my independent wrestling show
to Raw
to the pay-per-view show,
Wow.
and then drive to Raw the overnight and do the Cruiserweight division. And then later on in the year, I was able to earn a full-time contract. They started up 205 Live, which is still going on today. And that was their first experimental streaming show that they created based on the Cruiserweight division. So I got in at a very cool, where technology meets wrestling, everything grows. It's very historic. Very lucky.
Let me ask you. So we know Vince McMahon is the muckety muck, but I mean, there's now so many tendrils to this world. Is there a second person who's who he can delegate to, who's the overseer of all this? Because it seems like it's just too damn much for Vince to be, checking everything all the time.
So that's the one thing that I don't think you could ever say to him is that something's too much for him.
Right.
Yeah, so he's very much still at all the shows and running the shows and sitting backstage and doing that. And then NXT, which was originally developmental brand and has now become the third brand for WWE. They have a show on USA. That's run by Triple H.
Okay.
And he's kind of doing what Vince did there with that show.
All right, so how many nights of programming is there a week with WWE? And all the
across
centers,
everything. I would say 6 or 7 right now, per week.
And they're in all
let's list them. So we got Raw, that's on USA Network. We got NXT, which is on USA Network. We got SmackDown, which is on Fox. Then secondary shows, we have NXT UK, which is in the UK, and that's now on Peacock. 205 Live, which is on Peacock, and then we have W's Main Event, which is a pseudo recap show, and then some exclusive matches. I'm featured on there quite a bit.
Right.
That'll be on Hulu.
And then
I think that's
pay-per-views once a month.
And then pay-per-views once a month. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a machine. That's a ton of entertainment, man.
Yeah,
That's a ton of stuff.
Plus NXT has their own pay-per-views too, so those are happening I think 6 times a year.
And they're in different cities every
They will be going forward. Yeah.
Oh man,
Just talking about all this has made me hungry.
Yeah.
Well, we got to get to that, Preston.
We have to.
That's why this man is here.
Marissa is now going to bring in my edible charcuterie board that drew the attention of Drew Gulak, and we are now going to sample this. Here it is. I don't have any fanfare music or anything like that, but
All right, Case.
Oh, you know what?
Here we go.
Marissa, can I get a knife to cut the brie, please?
Yes, to cut the brie.
This
That's
knife
probably
is
something
for-
you hear a lot in wrestling.
Is for cutting this. So I'm going to let Drew sample this. And actually, you're supposed to just kind of like grab it and tear it. Okay. Now, keep in mind, I put this in the fridge overnight. It probably would be better if it were fresh.
Fresh off the grill.
Yeah, fresh off the grill, exactly. So,
Drew, that can be your catchphrase, your new catchphrase. Somebody get me a knife so I can cut the brie.
cut the brie.
No, but I do like fresh off the grill.
I like fresh off the grill.
Fresh off the grill.
Fresh off the grill, brother.
We can start a
I
restaurant
added a little hulk in there, but
This bread has all sorts of little cheeses in it.
And what did I call the honey? The honey divot?
Where's the honey divot? Charcuterie.
all right. So I'm gonna.
He has to have the first taste.
A little corner, you can grab some cheese or meat, and this is honey that you can dip it in.
Is that the honey divot?
I think Casey said he wanted to feed me.
I did.
All right. Well, maybe that happens.
Not the first bite, though.
No, he has to. A man has to share alone time with his
I don't
bread
want to.
charcuterie.
All right, so what do you
To be
recommend?
distracted. I would go with the piece of bread, a piece of brie, just to
brie.
start with, and dip it in the honey. So
You grilled this.
yeah, grilled it.
That's
Yep.
amazing.
So grab a little piece of brie there. You can
just
tear
go
off
like
that
this.
some of that if you want
Get
to.
in there.
And then
You said
dip,
some honey?
Yeah, dip it in a little bit of honey there.
Okay.
Okay, while he's doing this, it's bothering me. You know when someone reminds you of somebody but you can't figure out who it is? It's another athlete.
Dornbos.
Okay, is that it? Yes.
He reminds you of Dornbos?
Yes, it's the way he speaks.
Okay, he's got a bite. Is it a little crunchy? Or yeah, because you got a corner piece. So.
You picked the crunchiest part.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Oh, that's good.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Hey!
So we have breakfast of champions right now.
Now Casey's going to. I think he's going to feed
This is beautiful,
Drew
man.
a piece of it. Yeah, because they went on social media about this.
Okay.
Casey had said he would like to feed him a piece.
Maybe
And,
a little less crunchy.
Something that won't blow his teeth out of his skull.
the corner's very
need the
crunchy.
teeth.
I apologize.
No, it's good, man.
I went a little long.
You know, Casey gave an enema to Ric Flair once, so this is
That's where the woo came from.
that's where the woo.
All right. So you want some meat?
Yeah, give me some savory.
I never knew that.
Yeah, it's
that
from
the
the,
woo came
enema
from that.
for Casey.
All right, yeah, a little prosciutto.
Yeah.
I would recommend this cheese right there.
right
That's
there?
called Prima Donna. It is a Gouda. It is fantastic.
Okay,
Very
prima
good.
donna.
And you can either go with the honey or not. It's up to you. So
Good.
All right, Case, make this matter.
that's a big piece.
He's
He's a big man.
He's a big
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah. All right,
There you
Here we go.
buddy.
All right, he is
no,
now-
Case, do the plane.
Yeah.
Do the plane.
Yeah, can I get an airplane?
Who's a big boy?
From the top row. From the top turnbuckle.
Hey!
From the top turnbuckle all the way into Drew's
That's a
mouth.
first.
So yeah.
So this thing is so it looks so good. I got to try some.
When we get to the break, you guys can have at it. I made it for here. We can. The staff can help themselves.
Drew, how's your barbecuing and cooking?
Give him a minute.
Is this something you think you could tackle?
We need some water,
yeah.
buddy.
No, that's good. So, yeah, grilling. I know nothing about it.
Okay.
But so I just bought my first house. And, thank you guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, where's home for you, by the way, now?
So right now I'm in Orlando, but I
Okay.
come up to Philly as much as I can.
On the auto train.
Yeah, I just take the auto train up there on the gyrocopter.
Right. The Vince McMahon gyrocopter.
the Gulak copter.
Yeah.
So yeah, Orlando.
Yeah, so you just got a house. That's cool.
Yeah, we just got a house down there.
And are you married? Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Nice.
my wife Liz. Yeah.
Any kids or
No kids.
All right.
Did you ever see an alligator in the wild?
Casey is obsessed with actually seeing an alligator, not at Gatorland.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, dude,
out and about.
So the only thing we wanted to do since moving down there is like Where are the alligators? Sam? The only time I've seen one, we visited Kennedy Space Center, and they're just on the side of the road.
Oh,
You spend enough time, you will see your share of gators, and they also have the snakes and the.
I saw one at the airport. I mean,
Yeah.
they actually have these ponds out
Yes,
there,
yes.
and I've seen them out sunning themselves.
My wife
says
didn't
it
believe
doesn't
me.
count.
She
it
didn't
doesn't count. It doesn't count. I want to see a giant one on the side of a. So we went to Rocco's Tacos one time, and there's like a giant lake behind there. And I went out, and it was at night. And my friend was saying, if you usually you can see their eyes like glistening in the night and stuff. I couldn't even see that. It was cold though. It was a little cold.
Yeah, it was a little chilly.
All right. So we have to get the rating 1 to 10 on the charcuterie baked board. What are you giving it?
That's a 15.
A 15!
That's a 15.
All right, excellent.
Somebody get me a knife so I can cut the breed.
Well, listen, Drew, this is awesome to meet you in person.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you for having me.
And you're
man.
back in town from time to time, so we'll find a reason to hook up again, I'm sure.
Please, anytime. This was great.
And especially if...
do you all still say, hey, bitches?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
All right, cool.
If you want to, go ahead, say it.
Hey, bitches.
Hey, what?
and maybe if, maybe Monday Night Raw, you'll be back at home performing.
Philadelphia hasn't been announced yet for a tour, but I'm sure it'll be announced sometime in the near future.
That's awesome.
Usually once a year.
Yeah,
we
once or
get
twice,
it. So,
yeah.
excellent. Awesome. Well, listen, thanks so much for coming by, man. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you guys so much. This was awesome.
Let's hear it for Drew Gulak, guys. WWE wrestler, fan of the Preston and Steve Show, and a Philly hometown guy. I love it.